Morning all. So for the last few lessons we've been looking at the Reformation and mainly looking at the reformer Martin Luther. Today what we're going to be looking at is a few other reformers, but mainly at the Counter Reformation. So that is what the Catholic Church did to try and deal with the issues going on with Martin Luther and all the other reformers. So before we actually start out on looking at the Counter Reformation, we just need to be aware that yes, Martin Luther was probably was an incredibly important reformer. His 95 Theses kind of sparked off a lot of different reformations and gave the idea to a lot of different reformers, but he's not the only reformer at the time. Okay, he's the one that we'll be studying in most detail, but there are a number of other reformers, religious reformers at the time, looking into how religion is affected by the Catholic Church and trying to come up maybe with their own ideas about how religion should be run. So to start off today, the first task is to research and find out 5 facts about a different religious reformers or religious reformer other than Martin Luther. So you can choose one of the men on the picture in the video in front of you. So you have John Wycliffe, William Tyndale, John Knox or John Calvin, or if you prefer you can open your textbooks to page 126, and there are a number of other reformers mentioned there. So you spend about 5 to 10 minutes completing that task first. So I suggest pausing the video here, complete that task. Okay, so 5 bullet points, 5 facts about one of those reformers. Once you have that done, then just press play and you continue on through the video. Okay, so hopefully you will have looked now at a few of the different reformers. You may have looked up Henry VIII in England and his Anglican reforms. You may have looked up John Calvin and his Presbyterian Church. Okay, we'll be, that information will come in useful as we go through the lesson, whichever one you looked up. Okay, so we are going to now think about the Counter Reformation. So what we want to do today, lesson objective, is research another reformer other than Martin Luther. That's what you're just after doing. We're going to understand what's meant by this idea of a Counter Reformation, and then be able to explain the events of the Counter Reformation. And we're also going to look at some of the consequences of the Reformation at the end of the lesson. So the Counter Reformation. Basically, Counter Reformation means that the Catholic Church realized that they were losing a lot of people, a lot of followers, due to these reformers and what was going on with the Reformation. And they decided, this wasn't good enough, they needed to do something about this. So the Counter Reformation was the steps that they took in the Catholic Church to try and come up with a solution. So this man, Pope Paul III, came up with a number of ideas to try and protect the Church from what was going on. Right? So some of these ideas were, first of all, he had what's called the Council of Trent. So Catholicism at the time was a bit all over the place. Okay, it was very much spread out because of communication technology at the time. It was very difficult to get the same ideas across, and there were some differences in what maybe priests in different sections of the Catholic Church might be preaching. The Council of Trent was set up to make decisions. Okay, so this is all the kind of high bishops, the leaders of the Catholic Church, got together and they made decisions about what the Catholic Church believed. Okay, what were the teachings of the Catholic Church? Right, now this is very, very important because it gave a bit of continuity, okay, and it strengthened the Church. Right, it also organized some of the disciplines and the organization of the Church itself, so things weren't quite as all over the place and changing by region. So this is really important. It allowed the Catholic religion to remain kind of the largest religion in Europe, okay, and it also allowed the Pope to keep a lot of control within the Church and within politics of Europe. Right? We had new groups formed within the Catholic Church. Okay, so one of the most famous would be the Jesuits. Okay, and this was allowing different groups to have their own kind of focuses. So they still follow the teachings of the Catholic Church, but they might focus on a particular saint, or they might focus on a particular idea within the Church that they're going to be, is going to be most important to them. Okay, as I said, the Jesuits is probably the most famous. Okay, set up by Ignatius of Loyola. They became missionaries. Okay, and they sent out people or priests and monks in different parts of the world kind of spread the word of Jesus, the word of Christ. Later on, they became very, very involved in education. There's a few Jesuit colleges still around Ireland, okay, and very much into the academic side they would be seen nowadays of study, right? But they're still very much around. They're still a very strong part of the Catholic Church. And finally, they also stopped the Inquisition. And the Inquisition is basically a court, a religious court set up to deal with people who were going against the teachings of the Catholic Church. Now, the Inquisition only really had power over Catholics, but what it could do would be to dissuade people, discourage people from leaving the Catholic Church or speaking out against the Catholic Church. Alright, now the most famous one is the Spanish Inquisition, okay, which in years to come will become very, very violent and cruel in some of its punishments, right? And will be very, very would punish people very severely if they were thinking of leaving the Catholic Church, right? So this was dealing with the crime would be called heresy. So heresy is if you're going against the Church's teachings, and the Inquisition was set up to deal with heresy within the Catholic Church. So it was becoming more difficult to kind of leave the Catholic Church and change over to one of the Protestant Reformed churches. Now, some people often get confused around what's going on here. Okay, so when you have been doing ethics, you'll have looked at the different religions of the world, and you'll have seen that Christianity is the most populous religion in the world. We then have other religions such as Islam, we have Buddhism, Hinduism, Sikhism, Judaism, and a number of other major religions. What we're talking about here, this is all to do with Christianity. Okay, so all of these churches are still Christians, and that means that they all believe in Jesus Christ. Okay, so they're different to Islam, where they believe they follow the teachings of Muhammad, or Judaism, where Moses would be the primary prophet. Here, all of these different churches are still believing in Jesus Christ. They still believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He is the Messiah. He was the Messiah sent down. Okay, but there's different so these are just different sections within Christianity. Okay, so you just need to keep that in mind. So first of all, before the Reformation, there was already two sections within Christianity. Okay, so these had split off from each other around the year 1054, right? And this was the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. The Catholic Church was the church led by the Pope, and the Orthodox Church was a church in kind of the more Middle Eastern areas around Greece and Turkey, right? And they had their own separate beliefs in how to approach their religion and praise Jesus. Now, the Catholic Church is the predominant church in Europe at the time, and that's why it's one that we're looking at more so here. So basically what happened was we had the Catholic Church, this is the church that we seen the problems with the Islamic indulgences and nepotism and things in, and the Catholic Church continues to exist. The Catholic Church isn't going anywhere. It makes some changes with Counter Reformation that we've already looked at, so the Council of Trent, but it still continues going on. What happens is a number of people break off, and these are called the Protestant churches. Okay, so the Protestant churches is a term that includes all the different reformers. Okay, when we talk about the Protestant churches, technically what we're speaking about is a number of different churches that aren't really connected. Okay, they're just set up as being as against the teachings of the Catholic Church. They all came about around the same time. So we have examples such as the Lutheran Church. So this is the one that Martin Luther set up. We have the Anglican Church. Now this is the church that in Ireland, when we talk about people being Protestants, we are usually talking about people who are members of the Anglican Church. Okay, so this is the church that it's mainly the Church of England and the Church of Ireland, and it was set up under the instruction of Henry VIII of England, and it's really it's quite confined to that kind of area of England and Ireland. Now it would be similar in a number of ways to the Lutheran Church, okay, but not exactly the same. We have other examples of Protestant churches, such as the Presbyterian Church, which was set up by John Calvin, and that's quite a large church. It is important around the areas of Scotland and France and Belgium and Netherlands and places like that. Okay, it would be quite a strong, quite a well populated, quite a large number of people will be part of the Presbyterian Church. So really what you need to remember is everything we're talking about here is still to do with Christianity. It's all stems from the idea of the Catholic Church, and either people believing yes, the Catholic Church is still right, or no, we need to go against the Catholic Church, we don't believe in what they're saying, and we're going to set up a Protestant church, and there's a number of different types of Protestant church. Okay, so really, to understand this, we want to take a break again for a second here. I want you to open up your textbooks to page 128. You're going to see a map of Europe at the top of that page. Okay, so in this map, okay, you'll see a legend at the side. That's a little box that shows you the different colours and what the different colours mean. So the yellow section is the Catholic Church. Anywhere that's green is a Lutheran country, so the Lutheran Church takes more power. If it's striped with yellow and green, that means there's both of the churches still existing in that area. The Calvinist Church, set up by John Calvin, or the Presbyterian Church, they are the pink lines. Okay, and again, if there's a stripe of pink and yellow, that's made Catholic and Calvinist. There's a stripe of pink and yellow and green, that's Lutherans, Calvinists and Catholics all in that area. Okay, so there is a number of different sections across the map. Alright, and all you need to look at is the colours. So you have the purple for the Anglicans, the kind of browny colour for Bohemian Moravian Brethren, you have the Anabaptist, you have the Eastern Orthodox, and you have the Islamic churches. Okay, so just have a look at that map. It's going to come into the work you're going to be doing in a second. Okay, and just remember the colours just mean that that church is present in that area. So you know, some countries are very, very Catholic, some countries are very Calvinist, some countries are a mix of Lutheran and Catholic, and so on. Right? So you also have the divisions in Christianity, that's the same as the chart that we went through a few minutes ago. Okay, we have Christianity in the world today. So we can see that today the Roman Catholic Church is still the largest of the Christian churches. So about 50% of all Christians are Roman Catholics. Okay. You have Protestant religions, so that's a number of different religions such as Lutherans, Calvinists, Anglicans, and that's another 37%. The Orthodox, which remember was the church that the belief system that broke and separated from Catholicism back in 1054, they take about 12%, and then you have other Christians, which is another 1%. Okay, so when you've looked at those different sections, you're going to pause the video and you're going to look at page 71 of the skills book. Okay, open up page 71 and take about 10 minutes to complete that page. Okay, and then once you have that page completed, then you can press play again and we'll continue on through the rest of the lesson. Okay, so pause the video now. Okay, so you should have that page completed now. Okay, and we'll look at some other aspects of this. So Lutherans and Catholics, how were they different? So we're mainly going to focus on Lutherans here, okay, just because there's a number of different Protestant churches, we can't go through all of them. Alright, so the first way in which Lutherans and Catholics differed is that Catholic churches were very, very highly decorated. Okay, there's lots of statues, lots of paintings, lots of stained glass window, okay, very, very ornate and beautifully decorated places. Catholics believed that this was done to praise God. Okay, you put all of these material goods in to show how much you care for God and to praise God. Lutheran churches, however, are a bit different. They're much more bare. There's not as many statues or paintings. They don't decorate them as highly. Okay, they still put a lot of work and effort into the churches, but they just don't put up as many different decorations. And the reason they do this, they believe that these kind of expensive decorations are nothing to do with religion. What they are is they're just distracting you from prayer, and they're just not needed. Okay, when you're in church, you should be thinking about God and praying to God and not being distracted by these decorations. We have Catholics believe, and this is quite a kind of difficult idea for some people to get. It can be a difficult idea to get your head around. Okay, but we have two ideas. First idea is called transubstantiation, and this is what Catholics believe. So Catholics believe when they get communion, that when they're given communion, what they're actually taking into their body is the physical body and blood of Christ. Okay, so while it was bread and wine at the start, it has now been transformed. So transubstantiation has been transformed into the body and blood of Christ. Right? Lutherans had a slightly different belief. Okay, so this is called consubstantiation, and what they believed is that communion, yes, it is becoming the body and blood of Christ, but it's also still remaining bread and wine. So it's not completely transformed, it's still bread and wine, but it is at the same time the body and blood of Christ. Okay, so there's a slight difference there. Okay, if you're really looking to impress an examiner and they're asking you about the difference between Catholicism and Lutheranism, you would be trying to use those terms transubstantiation and consubstantiation, just to show you really know what you're talking about. Okay. Another example is Catholic priests were not allowed to marry, Lutheran priests were allowed to marry. Okay, so this still remains the case to this day. And finally, the Pope is the head of the Catholic Church. The Pope is not the head of the Protestant churches. Okay, so that is a big change here, that the Pope, his power is to do with the Catholic Church, not to do with the Protestant churches. Okay, so there's lots of different consequences then of the Reformation. Okay? The main consequences we will be looking at is there's a lot of intolerance and war between the different groups. Okay, you know, we talked about before the wars that were stopped by the Peace of Augsburg when Luther first started preaching his ideas and through his life. Those kind of wars continue on for centuries. Okay, so we have the 30 Years' War from 1618 to 1648. We have the English Civil War from 1642 to 1651. Okay, we have the Troubles in Northern Ireland in the 1970s. You know, we're all aware here in Ireland of the religious divisions between Catholic and Protestant groups up in the north. That, you know, can be drawn back to what happened with the Reformation. And then there's a lot of other things going on within Northern Ireland, but there's definitely an element of religious turmoil there. Education was very, very important to Protestant churches. So Protestant churches really encouraged their followers to read the Bible themselves. Whereas Catholic churches, the priest would read the Bible and the priest would explain it to their followers, so followers didn't really need to read the Bible. Protestant churches were much more saying, no, read the Bible yourself. You'll have a priest there to help you, but you should come to your own ideas about it, and they're very much encouraged to read. This obviously meant people needed to learn how to read. Okay, so a lot of more education was being put in. Right, this was, remember, we keep talking about the printing press. That was very important to allow the Protestant churches to be able to say it and be able to do this. Okay, the Catholic Church has been around for a long time beforehand. They weren't able. People didn't have the Bible. We didn't have the printing press. So that could be one of the reasons why they were less promoting of people. Traditionally less promoting of people reading the Bible, is because they just wouldn't have had the Bible. The priest had the Bible and he would explain it. Now people can get their own Bible, so the Protestant church is saying, no, actually you should read it. Let's see what you think. Okay, so the churches also took care of education. They believed it was their position to educate young children so that they could read the Bible. Okay, so Protestant churches would have their own teachers there and promoting educating children. The Inquisition was also set up, and particularly the Spanish Inquisition became very notorious for torturing and killing people who went against the Catholic Church. Okay, so if you committed a crime, if you committed heresy, you were Catholic and you went against what the Catholic Church said you should be doing, then you could be brought before the Inquisition and have some very difficult punishments put out against you. Okay, so that is the last section of the video, the last piece of talking I'll be doing. To finish up for today, what you need to do is task 3 down here at the bottom. So you're moving on to page 72 of the skills book. Okay, you'll see a graphic organizer at the top. You need to put 1 or 2 lines around each of those different titles, and then a paragraph at the bottom of the page. Okay, and then when you have all of those 3 tasks done, you can submit the pictures of those tasks to me on Teams.